What's going on, guys? It's DigiWatch TCG coming to you with another deck profile. Now today we're going to be going over the Blue Flare deck, at least my version of it, and I'll talk about some of the choices I go into, and of course I'm going to talk about some other options you can go into as well with it. This is right after EX-3 was announced, so there might be some future updates to this deck, but right now this is about where I'm at with the deck, and of course I'll talk about what you can do to modify it for an upcoming format. So with that said, please like, subscribe, leave your thoughts below, and let's get into the deck profile. So starting things off, where I'm personally playing 3 Baby Digimon, 1 Kiromon. This is because I do strip sources a lot more in this deck, and I'm assuming that right now in the format, the way that it is that we're probably going to have a little bit more of a wider format where they're going to kind of go, further out, rather than just one Digimon that is able to swing and do multiple checks to your security, kind of like how Metal Garurumon and those decks in BT9 did. But as an alternative option, you can also do the Blue Upamon, which says when one of your opponent's Digimon is on the field without any Digivolution sources, you can draw one on Declaration of Attack. So you may want to go that route. And I think either way is fine. Babies in this deck are not hugely impactful. They matter, but it's just a lot less impactful than before. Going into our level 3 lineup, we're playing only 10 of them, and I think that's completely fine in the way that this deck works. We're playing 4 copies of Gaussmon. Gaussmon is when it when it is deleted, you can play a Blue Flare suspended from your hand. All our level 4 Blue Flares are basically all on play effects, which help you move the game forward. So we do want to max out on this, and it is an easy check. If your opponent blocks it, you still get an effect. If they let it go, then they lose the security. So this is a very good card to have in this deck. Additionally, we are playing 2 Floodgates, which are the Bundoki Betamon. Bundoki Betamon is good, in my opinion, because right now, the biggest thing that this deck has a problem with is against decks that also will gain a lot of memory or be able to choke me on my end with memory. Bundoki saying no to stop them from continuing their turn is really good. This against Jesmon also is very, very powerful, but the biggest thing you would want to think about with this is that if they have a Balhawkmon that deletes a 4 or 5,000 DP or less, if they have that as part of their stack already, or if they have the plus 1,000 one, because that way you can kind of stop them from doing multiple types of plays. Lastly, for the last level 3, we're playing 4 copies of Jamming Vmon. This is good because it adds a lot of pressure to this deck. Most of the time, you're going to be able to swing into your opponent's security, and they're going to have to figure out if they want to get rid of this by attacking into it rather than attacking your security, or let you get another jamming shot at them. So I think this is a perfect lineup the way I built it right now. Of course, though, if you have any suggestions, please let me know below. So that's our level 3 lineup. Going into our level 4, so it's pretty standard. There's not really much variation in most of the decks I've seen. We were playing 4 of the Greymon. Now, this has a really good effect on play. You get to look at the top 4 of your deck, add 2 cards of Blue Flare and its name to your hand, and then the rest get to the bottom of the deck. And then additionally, it has save, so on deletion, you can place it underneath one of your Tamers. On an inheritable for your Metal Greymon and everything above it. If it has Blue Flare in its traits and your opponent has 2 or more Digimon in play, you can unsuspend this Digimon after making a declaration with attack. So basically, it's like the Garurumon attack, where you attack and unsuspends. But your opponent has to have 2 cards on the field, 2 Digimon on the field, for this to be active. I think this is definitely good at 4. There's not really much debate about that. You could put the Greymon that has +1 security check for more aggression, but I do like the double swing, and especially with Venusmon being something else that is played in a lot of these decks, I actually think that avoiding giving yourself the +1 security sometimes is a good thing, but having an option is not that bad an idea. For Male Birdmon, this is a very good card, and I think a 4 of as well in this deck. You can hard play it if you do. If you don't have a Kira or Christopher in play, you can play one from your hand for free. Additionally, if you already have a Kira, I think it's Kahiri, or Christopher. I'll just call it Christopher for now. If you have a Christopher in play, then you can return a Metal Greymon from your trash to your hand, which is really good. As inherited, when attacking, you can freeze one of your opponent's Digimon if you have two or more. If they have two or more Digimon in play, so it does again help you stun the board and more consecutively with some of the plays that you do with this deck. We are playing 3 Digimon. Very good because this is your quickest way to get your pieces, in my opinion. It's a draw engine. You play it via the Gaussmon, or you can just hard play it. You want to play it mainly from effects, but when it's played, you draw 1, and then you draw 1 for every card your opponent has. So if your opponent is going wide, think facing like a Jessamon player who plays a lot of Sistermons. If your player plays like 4 Sistermons, then you can draw 5 cards from your deck, which is very, very helpful for a lot of the plays here. One and then inherited, it all turns. Your Digimon has 1,000 additional DP if your opponent has 2 or more Digimon. So I'll just mention, like, I have Lobomon for game here, but one of the big things I just want to mention with this deck is that if your opponent is smart and they know how to, like, I guess, modify like what they have on the field and what they don't, they will try to keep themselves to just one full stack and be able to swing with that rather than spread out too much. They'll either go very, very wide, which stops your opponent in some respects there, stops this deck or makes it less effective, or they'll go very, very small, going 1 stack. But if they go about mid, where they're going kind of like I have 2 or 3 Digimon on the field, then Blue Flare has a big advantage. So something to keep in mind, and try to allow yourself to figure how am I forcing my opponent to play more Digimon. That is kind of what you want to do with this deck. That's the big question, at least you want to ask yourself or them. We're playing 4 Metal Greymons and 4 Decker Greymons. Basically, this is your DigiXros targets. Basically, for Metal Greymon, this is the one you always want to see in hand. You want to see at least 2 or 3 copies of it from early and mid game. When you Digicross with it, you Digicrosses with Greymon and Male Birdramon, and then you can only play it for 3 cost. It gains Rush on that same turn, so meaning you can attack with the same turn comes out. It freezes up to 3 of your opponent's Digimon with sources equal to or less than itself. So usually with Greymon and Male Birdramon, you have a total of 3 underneath it, and then it has save 2. So if it gets deleted, you take the Greymon and the Male Birdramon, you put it under one of your Tamers. This card is your win con for the deck. I very much think that it is, at least. This is where you have to attack, unsuspend. The only problem, I guess, with it is that it's 8,000 DP, so it most likely will get deleted at some point, but so many ways of recycling in this deck. Decker Greymon, also very, very powerful card. I think a 4 of is definitely considerable. You can always take one of these out for like another spot for something else, but I think Decker's fine. You can Digicross this with the Metal Greymon and the Decker Dramon, but most people, what they'll do is Digivolve for 2 over the Metal Greymon, and because it does have an on-play or Digicross crossing ability, so you can on-play it, Digicrossing it with the Metal Greymon and Decker, or you can Digivolve on top for 2, and it still gets the effect. Meaning, basically saying you can put a Digimon with Blue Flare underneath it from your hand or one of your Tamers to suspend one of your opponent's Digimon. And you can consistently do that. Like, it just says over level 5, so you can consistently use a Decker over a Decker, and it has Armor Purge. So that's an interesting play style that I've seen sometimes happen. One thing to keep in mind is that this does not use a card that's already on the field. I had an opponent that he had a Decker Dramon just like sitting in over here, not a Decker Gray, but Decker Dramon, and he tried to like use it. He didn't know it was not his fault, but like he put it underneath it, and then he was like, all right, I'm gonna swing, and that should be game. And I'm like, hold on a second, can I take a look at the card and realize that? So make sure you read your cards. There's a reason why they print words on them. So yeah, that is our level 5s. Level 6s. Now, I will say that this deck usually can stop at level 5. So anything above the level 5s is kind of like what your choice is for the meta. You can always alter this to what you think is the best choice to play. So for me, I am playing 2 copies of Magnamon X Antibody, as well as 1 copy of Azulongmon. over here. And the things I find are really good about this deck is because you want to be able to rush your opponent, but there are times where you just are in a tough spot and you need to allow yourself extra time. And certain decks will be able to get over your stuff very quickly. So giving yourself the Magnamon as a redirect, like just for example, if you were in a mirror match, right, and your opponent goes, okay, well, I'm going to go stun your Magna X antibody. I mean, they should know it, but essentially you could say, okay, well, I'll just redirect it, because it's not a blocker, it's a redirect to itself. And it's 11k, so it would be able to practically stop anything that's trying to attack into it. Plus, it recovers you itself to the top of your security if it does get deleted. Now, by playing this package, you also have to play X antibodies, which is sometimes a little bit of a brick, but you can all, with the new set and EX-3, you can always figure out if this is the route you want to go or if you want to try something else, which either way is fine. And then Azulagmon is your final way of like being able to stop very big wide boards and be able to attack for game, because what you're trying to do with this is you Digivolve for 5 over one of your metals, and essentially you're stripping everything on the field, and depending on how many cards they have without sources, you gain memory back for each one. Then it gets a security attack for each card that it has no sources on their side of the field. So if they have like a Sistermon, like a Jessamon deck would really not like this card, because they're going to have 3 or 4 different Sistermons currently in play, and that would mean you were getting at least 4 memory from this, plus you'll have 4 checks with this card. So very powerful engine, but of course you could play different engine or different other, you play more options, you play Hammer Sparks in this over here. It could be really anything that you want. I'll go over the Tamers because the Tamers aren't really too crazy. I think it's practically the same for most decks. 4 copies of the Kiari, I don't know, Christopher. This is a memory tamer, sets you 3, and then you can suspend it to use sources from underneath him for a DigiXros. So that is 4 over here. And again, everything in our deck is practically saying you have to play Christopher. Then we are playing 3 copies of Sora Joe. I think that 3 is perfectly fine in this format. There are decks that do grid DigiXros, like Shoutmon is still a thing, even though it got hit on the ban list. You could play against the mirror matches, against stuff like Examon or Metal Garurumon, and take out sources from underneath them. So Sora Joe will be able to at least get some sources out underneath them if they don't have all their pieces. So I absolutely think that this is a completely fine ratio. So that is our Tamers. Now options, I will say, are another area that you can definitely work around with some choices. So first off, this is almost like you have to play this. 4 of the best memory boosts we've ever gotten, which is the Blazing Memory Boost. For 5 cost, yes, it's a lot of cost, but you get a lot out of it. So first thing is that this looks at the top 6 of your deck, so it searches you 2 pieces of Blue Flare. It could be a Metal Greymon, any Digimon with Blue Flare, but also any these themselves have Blue Flare in its traits, so you could take another copy of Blazing. Also, Kira is also something you can take. And what's more is that if you have 2 pieces, like let's say you had Decker and you had Greymon in that 6 stack, you take 1 of each, and you also hit the Kira. Kira plays directly. So very much right in there, right, by playing this, you're only really playing a card that gives you, like, basically for 1 cost, 2 pieces of your hand, and then this is almost like playing the Tamer right away, which, is a memory Tamer. I think that's really good. So I think that this card definitely should be at a 4. Because we're playing the Magnamon X engine, I'm playing 2 copies of X Antibody. In security, they act as a mini Hammer Spark, giving you 1 memory, and then adding to hand. And then, of course, you use it for the Magnamon X plays. 1 Ice Wall because it's a blue deck. 1 Forbidden Trident. I like this card. I didn't realize how much utility you can get through it, but it does give one of your Digimon 2,000 additional DP, and it allows you to bounce back cards. So what you can actually do with this is, if your opponent has a few rookie rookies on the field, especially if you're facing Jessmon or something like that. Because Blue Flare can unsuspend, you can actually send 2 level 3s back to your owner's hand, and it's only 1 cost to play, so it is definitely a good consideration. Now, for other flex spots here, there's definitely like a lot of room. You could play stuff like Plasma Launcher, you could play stuff like Kaida's Breath, but most people are going to be playing this card over here. This is the new card, the new inclusion out of EX-3. I think it's called Sorai. But basically what it is able to do is it strips 4 cards from the top of a Digimon's Digivolution sources. So like, let's say you had a level 6, it would take out the 5, the 4, the 3, and the 3 and the 2 potentially underneath it with this card. And then for every Digimon that they have that does not have sources, they cannot attack or block with those Digimon. They can't attack, just attack, with this card. So this is a very powerful card, and I might be upping the boost here. I'm just testing it at 1. I'm just going to eventually start to move out other cards. And then the last card is Rattlestar. Rattlestar is your bounce, your removal, but this, again, can be another Sora. I could take out this package here for the X antibody and the Magnas and put more copies in it, and then just put more defensive options in there if I wanted to as well, which makes this a very close to like tier 1 deck. Now, we just had a recent ban list, of course, and we also had a tournament that EX-3 was not legal for. So with this deck, the way it is right now, the Sorai might be the way to go rather than the Magnamon X. But that is completely up to the player and how they want to make this. They can make it a lot more options, because you do search a lot, so you could play it that way. You could play Hammer Sparks. I don't have any Hammer Sparks in here, as you can see. And play it that way as well to extend your plays even further, which could be a consideration as well. But let me know what you guys think. Do you like this deck the way it is? Would you put in more Hammer Sparks? Would you put in more Sorai? I think the option lineup is pretty much where your flex spots are going to be, and then of course the level 6s as well. You don't need to play any level 6s at all if you really didn't want to, and just make it like a rush deck, which sometimes is the best way of playing this deck. But let me know in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts on the deck if you're playing it. This is probably my favorite deck out of BT10. I wasn't really hugely impressed from any of the other stuff that came out, other than maybe like Minervamon and some of the Jessmon support. But let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and have a good one.